Well, last week, Kurt did a great job introducing busting out, and he talked about spring and that sort of standing on a threshold and that tug of war between what was and what is to be as things start happening during the process of spring. And he also reminded us that cherry blossoms come and go, and so does Brooke Shields. So if you haven't seen the talk, go on the website and watch it. It's really quite revealing, Kurt. But in a good way. So this month, busting out, with spring coming, on the 19th actually, this time of year can serve as a great reminder to dissolve some limiting beliefs and bust out into a greater yet to be. One of the philosophies that we promote here in this grand philosophy called the science of mind is that change is a nature of the beast. It's the nature of life itself. And that we change, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, but we will indeed change. And today I fought the law, it won. Now some of you know the Clash's song from the 70s. It's a really kind of a great song, but not really complicated lyrics. It's really the chorus, and he goes to prison because he robbed a bank because he didn't have any money, and it's the travails, and ain't it awful, and because he was fighting man's law. Today, I don't want to talk about man's law, but rather instead natural law or spiritual law. What we hear in this teaching, this philosophy called the law. It's the principle that we honor, recognize, do our best to understand, and use consciously in bringing forth the changes we desire in our life and pretty much maintaining a level of sanity. One of the things modicum of it anyway. One of the things Kurt mentioned was that having an attitude of openness really helps when we're going through changes, doesn't it? And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that certainty is a death knell, a killer of true discovery. Because we already know, then we never get to really find out. So this month, we'll be doing a fair amount of investigating that, discovering what is that beautiful pink blossom that came out of that little bitty pit 7 years ago. It became this incredible tree. And all of a sudden, there are cherries, and you bite one, and there's something inside of each of those cherries, another one of those little pits. I didn't know that cherry trees would live as long as they did, over 100 years, 125 years. Amazing production potential. So I fought the law, it won. The law always works. It always has, it always will. We can resist this or recognize and use the law for our benefit. Resistance causes suffering. So, as I was thinking about this morning, it became very clear to me that we can't fight the law. It can seem like that. We can go against our true nature. We can do everything we can to use ourselves against ourselves, but we don't really fight the law. In fact, what we do is fight ourselves. When I said use ourselves against ourselves, we're using our minds against our minds. We're using our beliefs against us and against our joy, against our abundance, against our health and well-being, our peace of mind, etc. So Dr. Holmes wrote, every time we use the law of life in a constructive manner, and that's specific, in a constructive manner, we widen our channels of self-expression. They become broader and deeper. He goes on, denying the law of life temporarily blocks its flow through us. And so I have a model, an image, and I trust you can see it back there in the back. The truth color, the color of the truth word up there is a little light. You maybe have to strain a little bit to look at it. But truth moves through our beliefs into the facts of our experience. It comes into form as our experience. So truth itself is pure. And here we teach that truth is beauty and joy and abundance and what we would call good and health and well-being, wholeness, harmony, peace. You know, that kind of stuff we like, not the stuff we don't like. But do we have stuff we don't like? One of the challenges in this teaching is that we say all the time, it's all God. And invariably, students will say, what about evil? What about Hitler? What about Idi Amin? What about Trump? What about politics? What about my ex? And on and on and on it goes. We have notions that that's not part of God. But if it's all God, there ain't nothing that's not God. So how does it show up as that particular experience, which we would do our darndest to avoid and sometimes become habituated to and don't think we can avoid it? It comes through our beliefs. Do you believe that suffering exists? All you have to do is look around, right? People suffer. We too maybe have suffered. But the fact of the matter is that's of our own choosing. Now that choice may be an unconscious choice. It may be trained into us. The sense of diminishment and feeling smaller than life itself, being put upon by others in life, all of that stuff is nothing more than a belief, a point of view, which we can change. We thunk it in, we can thunk it out. Pay attention to that. We literally cause things to be in our experience through our beliefs, that middle section. And in this philosophy, that middle section is the law. It's that operating principle. It's the Gumby-Play-Doh factory. It's what makes things take form. And all the intelligence of the universe is contained therein to produce those effects. But when we stay clear, when we stay clean in our thinking and more in touch with truth rather than those beliefs that we have embraced so deeply, then it may not feel that way sometimes. The beliefs will take charge. They'll smack us upside the chops. Our trouble is not derived from life itself, but from the use we have made of it. Life exists in its fullness at the center of our being. So, if it were never blocked, it would always flow through us as life, love, harmony, happiness, and success. So Edna and Martha had been married for over 60 years. 85 years old at this point. The last 10 years of their life, they had been really very, very, very healthy for what most people would consider an elderly individual. And they were on vacation together, driving through the countryside, and experienced a tragic automobile accident. And they stood to live a lot longer, but this crash, they died. They found themselves at the pearly gate, and St. Peter greeted them because they believed that St. Peter would greet them at the gate. I'll come back to that later. And they greeted him to the gate, and he says, "Follow me," and they followed him, and he took them to this gorgeous mansion. They walked in. There was perfectly appointed, a great chef's kitchen. They looked out, and they could see the mountains in the distance from every single window. There was a lake thereby. It was just gorgeous. And he says, "Okay, how much does this cost?" And Peter says, "Hey, it's free. It is free. This is heaven." And so they went out the back door, and there's this championship golf course. And every week the course changes to match the different beautiful, amazing courses here on the planet. And you get to play golf every day if you would like. And so Ed says, "How much does it cost?" And Peter says, "It's free." Well, it's heaven. I mean, it's free because it's heaven? Yep, it's free. Okay. So I took him to the country club, and there at the country club, there was this huge buffet of every single global cuisine possible. And of course, I'd ask, how much does this cost? Because all this incredible, rich, beautiful, tasty food is sitting there before them. And guess what St. Peter said? It's free because it's heaven. And finally, Ed just jumps up in a fit of rage. He takes his hat, throws it on the floor, jumps up and down on it. He's a screaming fit, says, God! And he points at Martha and says, this is all your fault. If you hadn't been feeding me those bran muffins and that horrible healthy food, I could have been here 10 years ago. How many of you eat horrible food because it's supposed to be good for you? Not so much anymore, huh? We've figured out how to make tasty recipes with stuff that's supposed to be good for us. It's supposed to be low cholesterol, it's supposed to be low fat, it's supposed to be this, it's supposed to be that, you're not supposed to do that, you can't do that, etc., etc., etc. People, all of those are beliefs that we have bought into and inculcated throughout our culture. Now, we even have science behind them. But they're beliefs. If you look at natural science, we cannot go against nature in its truest sense of the word. However, I will challenge you with an idea. How many of you know gravity works all the time? Drop something, it falls to the ground. You fall off a ledge, you fall down to the ground, right? Jump off a diving board, hopefully you go into the pool. Gravity works. So we consider that a natural law. And in fact, it's the law of attraction. And I say that because in the early 70s, I was in Los Angeles with a buddy of mine. He said, I'd like for you to go with me over to this house. There's a guy over there who meditates, and while he's meditating, he levitates. I said, no, I got to see that. So we go over there, and Richard and I walk into the house, and the energy in the room, it's almost thick. It's palpable. The atmosphere is dense. It was the most unusual experience I've ever been exposed to. And there, on one end of the room, above a pillow, was this guy sitting full lotus, and he was about 6-8 inches off that mat, off that pillow. Now that made me scratch my head. How did he do that? Gravity, he's supposed to be on the pillow, but he wasn't. Now people, that had messed with me for the longest time until I realized that gravity is a theory. It's not a law. We call it the law of gravity, but it's really the law of attraction. Attraction and repulsion, that's the law. In the Science of Mind philosophy, we talk about the law of attraction. That what we do is get what we put out. What we firmly believe and hold as our filter of belief, the truth moves through and we experience as a fact in our life. It factualizes in our life. Think about that. Now, I know that there are people in this room who have changed their minds. You changed your mind likely to even show up in this room this morning. I know when my buddy says, hey, you ought to come to this church with me, I did the warding sign. Why? And I went and I heard a message similar to what you're hearing today, and I never looked back because it resonated as the truth for me. And people after person, after individual, after group of people have said, it felt like coming home. I knew what they said was true for the longest time, and just never found a place that taught it. So those of us who have been exposed to this and heard the message that I cause my experience in life, do I change reality? No, I change my reality. And I'm frankly, for my money, if I change my reality, that's good enough for me. I don't need to change your reality. That's your job. So Kurt and I were talking a couple of days ago, and he found on a website, a religious website, that this particular teaching, the Centers for Spiritual Living and the Science of Mind philosophy, teaches personal responsibility. Not real sexy. I'm going to go to that church because they teach personal responsibility. I want some of that. No! I don't want to be responsible for anything else. But Sally Joe shared up here that what we do is we work on our individual consciousness. We become more aware of the law and how to use it, how it works, and how we can use it so that we can have more joy, have more harmony, have more health, have more of a sense of well-being, have more peace of mind, have more abundance. And we work on it in that middle section. People, you define your own law. You create your own law. There is the law and there's your law. Your law fits inside the law. It's like there are three truths. There's your truth, my truth, the truth. There's your law, my law, the law. And your law and my law is contained within the law. And what is the law? It is done unto us as we believe. Now be very clear. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Be very clear. It's not what we wished we believed. It's what we really believe. In the core of us, that about which we are convinced is how life is. There are going to be changes in our lives from hour to hour and day to day, and we cannot escape them. It's the nature of the universe. Let us accept change. Make the most of it and capitalize on it. The action of the law never changes, but the direction of the action is always up to us. That's the joy of what we're looking at this particular month. The opportunity to take more responsibility for our own beliefs, our own points of view, and to develop an attitude that makes us more adaptive to the changes that are always going on already. It can be a whole lot of fun. So, the truth, perfection, wholeness, joy, abundance flows through our beliefs, and our beliefs limit how much of that factualizes in our life. That's how the law works, at least to the best of our understanding. And that's the opportunity for each of us to be able to grab a hold of. Bless you. Life can become a glorious adventure as we gradually or suddenly come to change our pattern of thinking and embrace more good. Embrace more of the truth. Let your beliefs change and let the good into your life. Thank you. Let's pray together. The one life that I know as God, the joy of life, the perfection of life, the cyclic nature of life, the wholeness, the abundance, the peace, all of that already exists in life itself. And I know that each individual Each person lives in that one life, as a part of that life. Therefore, all that peace, all that joy, all that abundance, that wholeness itself awaits claiming. So I know that each person, each practitioner speaks the word and receives the word, letting it be. So knowing these words as already fulfilled, I also know for this beloved community, an awakening into the truth of Spirit itself, into that perfection, into that wholeness and abundance, into that peace of mind. That each person, every breath, every step, accepts a little bit more or a lot more every moment. So with joy in my heart, I let these words go and know for each a stepping into the flow, truly a letting it be. And so it is.